I'm going to ask you to stop cuddling my pillow and get it out of shot.
Hmm?
No. Hello everybody, my name is Jacob. Welcome back to JK Productions. Welcome back to the first in-person video other than in the FAU studio that we had in a long time. This is really the first one I think the last guest I had in person in a slightly different setting. That was back at my old house. That was a different time. This was in the beginning of COVID with the last time I did an in-person video like this. But back on the show with me today, you guys haven't heard from in a long time, is Donovan. Donovan, how you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good, you know.
Are you sure? Because you weren't feeling too good about, what, 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago?
Listen, don't eat panda before working out.
Yeah, this man, we did our V squats at the gym, and then we got to our fourth set on the leg press, got 4 plates, and this man said, and I quote, we're going to 5, right? We got to 4, and as soon as he done, what happened as soon as you finished that set?
I got a little nauseous, dry heaved a little bit. Then I upchucked in front of a very pretty woman.
So, very smooth of you, sir.
Yeah.
But yeah, he didn't necessarily feel the greatest. But today...
I did five plates, though.
He did. You know, I got to give him credit where credit's due. He did get the 5. However, that was the last thing he did in the workout and proceeded to run to the bathroom. Is that appropriate how to say it?
I walked very briskly to the bathroom and proceeded to do the same thing I did after the 4th set.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty sight. It was funny to me, but at least you did power through there at the end. But thank you guys for listening. Those listening in on Spotify, the audio should sound a lot better. It should sound pretty good. It should sound crisp. However, if you're watching this on YouTube, the audio, I have no idea what it sounds like. I'm here in my dad's apartment. It's pretty spacious in here, so it could be a bit echoey. I'm not 100% sure. Quite frankly, I haven't used this camera in over a year, so I'm kind of just hoping I've set everything up correctly. This could be chalk. You guys might never see this. I don't know. But today, in today's video, we're going to be talking about some NFL. You know, I stopped talking about football for a little bit over on JK Productions at FAU. I had to talk about basketball. I had to talk about some FAU. And actually, before we'll get into the football, I didn't even discuss this with you. I will talk a little bit about FAU sports, just a little bit. And then we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers, what just happened with that, Russell Wilson, what just happened with that. And then we will also get into free agency as a whole, talk about the Dolphins free agency. As you see, we are, as we should be, we are matching here with our Dolphin shirts.
Fins up.
Anything else we talk about, we're just going to make it up as we go. But if you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. I've been mostly uploading on here. Last week's video, I'm sorry about the audio. My audio is fine, but Jacob Brown's audio wasn't the best because his mic wasn't turned on. So the only way you heard him, and you just found out because you didn't watch the video, the only reason you guys heard him in the first place was through the stereo in the FAU, like the radio station there. So I'm hearing him through a speaker. That's the only way you guys heard him if you watched the video. So that's why his audio is so bad. So hopefully the audio today is a little better. Again, not sure how the audio is on that end, but we will get right into things. Oh wait, before I discuss anything else, if you are going to be watching this on YouTube, like I said, please drop in the comments down below when we get to the picks, where we get who's going where. Drop your opinions down below, any hot takes, or if for your own personal teams, let me know what you think you guys are going to do down in the comments below. So before we get into the football, I will just briefly talk about some FAU sports, as I'm not doing this show in person like I normally do in the FAU radio room there. I was very fortunate last Tuesday actually, I was fortunate to commentate the FAU baseball game, which we saw FAU take on the University of Michigan in a late game comeback with a game-winning single to win the game. It was great to see my first experience ever commentating baseball. It was pretty nerve-wracking at first, considering I don't watch too much baseball. Baseball is probably my 5th favorite sport. So the first 3 innings was kind of difficult for me, so I didn't necessarily know what I was doing. But it was great, and great to see FAU taking on this Big Ten competition and winning. FAU played University of Minnesota to open up the season, won 3 out of 4 with that. Played University of Michigan, split the series there, 1-1, and then took on the University of Fordham after that. So really good for our FAU Owl baseball team. And FAU Owl basketball team, I was on the call last Saturday, the last game of the season against FIU, which we saw FAU blowing out the competition there in the first half, and then the second half, FIU really made it interesting. They came back with their press. Their press was really difficult for the FAU offense to deal with, and they got back into the game, got it all the way down to single digits, which it was 1 point, a 21-point lead going into halftime. We had Elijah Martin drop 34 points. I believe it was a single season high for him. Great game there, and FAU did eventually get off with the win. Did not better their place in the Conference USA standings. They are still at 3 seed, which means they will be playing on Wednesday instead of, we were hoping to get past that and go out to the quarterfinals. We will see FAU playing, what is that, tomorrow? It's playing tomorrow. I'm not sure the time. The first round of the Conference USA tournament is going on as we speak. The FIU Panthers are playing right now as we're recording this. FAU will be playing tomorrow. The winner of the 6 and 7 matchup, who I have no idea who it is, we will be playing the winner of them, and then hopefully moving on after that. But FAU's first conference tournament game starts tomorrow. Really excited for them, hoping to move on and maybe even make the NCAA tournament. But that is all for the FAU talk. And now we'll get into things in Donovan. We saw the Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson fiascos, or really lack thereof, come to an end. We saw first with Aaron Rodgers putting pen to paper with a new extension for the Green Bay Packers, reported $150 million 4 years for there. And so just, I'm going to ask you your thoughts, allow you to speak for the first time really. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm going to correct you real quick. You said 4 years, 150. It's 150 mil guaranteed.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It is $200 million contract. And Rodgers actually, he said he is coming back, but that the contract details were incorrect. So we're still waiting to hear what the exact contract details are. However, this is great for Green Bay. In the very short little things that we saw from Jordan Love, I didn't really like what I see. He's still, after, 2 years behind Rodgers now, hasn't really shown anything, like any progression. He's still really raw. He can be good. I would like to see him get an opportunity elsewhere. But as far as Green Bay, they are in a win-now mode. They have been to the AFC Championship game, or NFC Championship game, sorry. 2 or 3 out of the last 5 years?
Well, I think it was it's at least 2 years in a row. Going beyond that, I'm not sure.
They did go 2 years in a row. They didn't make it this year, did they?
Oh, no,
They did not make it this year. They did make it the year before that and the year prior to that as well. But yeah, this is great for Green Bay, and it supposedly is a cap-friendly deal that will allow them, as they did already, to tag Devontae Adams, and he's going to be either signed to a long-term contract or play on that franchise tag. I know he prefers to be paid very well.
And he will be eventually.
He will.
He's going to get that money one way or another.
Yes. Unfortunately, the way the franchise tags work, he can actually be tagged again next year, which is what happened to Le'Veon Bell, and we all saw what happened with that. He took a year off and was never the same player again. But yeah, and to move on to Russell Wilson real quick,
Go ahead.
Let
me talk about Devontae Adams, or not Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
I think this, if you're looking at the Packers, you had to do this. Like you mentioned with Jordan Love. Jordan Love didn't impress in that Kansas City Chiefs game. He was very limited. You could tell they were only calling certain calls for him just because he's not ready. And how long he sat on the bench. He was on the bench at all his rookie season, and now he's on the bench this year, and he doesn't really do anything. And then when he actually gets the opportunity, you don't really see a lot from him. And I do believe they're going to move on from Jordan Love, and he is in one of my picks for who's going to get what quarterback. I do have a location for him, but he's clearly not the answer. And you have Aaron Rodgers. You have him there already. You have a very winnable division, which is something that I think is the most important thing. Aaron Rodgers, if he went to Denver, like Russell Wilson did, you're talking Mahomes, Herbert, Carr. That's an incredible division of talent at quarterbacks, and I mean it still is now with Russell Wilson.
Absolutely.
You kind of tease there. We will get to in a second. But you go there, you're really looking at some tough competition. And if you went to Tennessee, Tennessee I didn't think would be a bad option. Tennessee also would have to deal with Ryan Tannehill's contract, so he's not going to go there and see them spend big outside of him. So I think Green Bay, if you just look at it realistically, was the best option for him. However, I did not think he was going to stick with the Packers. Last week episode with Jacob, I thought he was going to leave. I thought he was going to be the Broncos quarterback. I thought he was going to think of it a little egotistically and think he just want to move on, even though he's in a very good situation already. But that's not the case. He is going to be staying. He signed what was originally reported as a 4-year, $200 million contract. Yes. He came out and said that's not exactly accurate. So we'll see what that ends up being, what number that ends up being. However, it is huge for the NFC. The NFC had a really big chance of being really weak at quarterback. You did lose Russell Wilson, but that obviously would have been different had Aaron Rodgers gone there. It still would have at least one top quarterback leaving the conference. So you have Tom Brady most likely leaving. Now that's
up for debate.
That's still up in the air. But then you have Matt Stafford. You have
Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray. Off the top of my head, like who else?
I mean, if you consider Russell Wilson could have been. If you consider Kirk Cousins, he's probably one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFC.
Which is saying something.
Yeah.
If you look at the top 5 quarterbacks in the AFC, it's ridiculous.
The top 10 quarterbacks in the AFC are better than the top 20 combined in the NFC.
Yeah,
and there's not even 20 teams.
And if you lost both, it was unlikely for both. If you're going to lose both Rodgers and Wilson out of conference, man, the Rams just would have a cakewalk. And Aaron Donald and Sean McVay would have no choice but to come back, really.
Yeah.
So Aaron Rodgers re-signs, and piggybacking off that, the guy who took his place, Russell Wilson, is traded from the Seattle Seahawks. Russ is free. Let Russ cook.
Russ is free.
He could have been down here in Miami, which would have been nice.
It would have been. You never really had a concern about that. I had a little bit of a concern if he came down here. He is 10 years in the league. He is coming off of a couple seasons where he's been battling some injuries, and our offensive line is no better than Seattle's is at the moment.
But we do have the cap to both sign him and then bring some people.
That is also true, whereas Seattle's cap situation is horrible. Their draft situation was horrible. They got 2 first-round picks, I believe 2 second-round picks, a 5th-round pick.
Drew Lock.
They also got Drew Lock. Shelby Harris was a huge addition to them. I think that was the underrated part of that trade. They also received Noah Fant.
Yeah.
Noah Fant, I had him in fantasy not this year, but the year prior, and he was a great fantasy tight end. But he was always injured.
Yeah. Great fantasy tight end doesn't always amount to great tight end.
Exactly, and to piggyback off that, he's probably worth around a 3rd-round pick. I said Shelby Harris is probably around a late 1st, early 2nd-round pick. If that, I think he goes a little bit higher than that, to be quite truthful. He was a huge addition for them, and they need some namesay on that defense, because you know what, they just released Bobby Wagner.
Yeah, which we will get to later. Yeah, Bobby Wagner. It's clear that they're now, with that release, with letting go of Russell Wilson,
they're in rebuild.
They're in full rebuild mode, and they could look to address things in the draft this year. However, the quarterback crop isn't the best, so they will be looking to go in a completely different direction. Now, as time of recording, Pete Carroll is still the head coach, and anybody who's listened to me
and general manager.
Yeah, anybody who's listened to me more than 10 seconds knows my disdain for Pete Carroll. I think he's the most overrated coach, overrated anybody in the NFL.
I couldn't agree with you more on that.
Oh, I think I disagree.
No. I'm sitting here. I'm like, I couldn't agree with you more. I thought he should have been fired 2 years ago.
3, 4.
Probably even more. It was just really bad over the past few years to watch him waste Russell Wilson's career. He had DK Metcalf. I'm drawing a blank. Tyler Lockett. He had those 2. Dynamic duo. I always say I think DK Metcalf is a little overrated. You guys always pound me for that, but
I don't know if overrated is the right word. He's limited. He's a big body receiver, but he's a pretty decent route runner. I think the bigger issue was the fact that Russell Wilson had no time to throw in that pocket.
100%, and they never fixed that issue. And that was my one thing, with coming to Miami. How long have we had offensive line issues? I think the last time we had a decent offensive line was in 2016. And what did we do?
Made the playoffs.
We made the playoffs. And what did we do the year after that? We let our left tackle go. I mean, we did have Larry Tunsil move from left guard to left tackle, and we ended up getting for him.
It was. I'd say it was definitely worth. Now I wish we would have used those draft picks we got for him a little better. Like that first year when you draft Tua, could have had Herbert. You draft Austin Jackson, you could have had Justin Jefferson. You draft Noah Igbenogany, you could have had Justin Colts running back. Jonathan Taylor. You could have had 3 offensive studs all coming at the same time, all working together. Now the offensive line was still been hot garbage. But you drafted Robert Hunt in that draft, so if you would have had those as your first 4 picks, whoa, that would have been incredible. So that would alleviate some concern for me.
However, I mean it is hard to miss on 3 first-round draft picks.
But we did it.
But we did it. But then on the other hand, last year's draft, I mean, we hit on every single person in that draft.
We did. I want to pull it back to Russell Wilson.
Yes.
The compensation that
getting a little off topic.
The compensation that the Seahawks got, I think it was pretty fair. You're talking 2 firsts, 2 seconds, a fifth. You gave a 4th back. Woohoo! And then those 3 players. I think Drew Lock is going to stay, and I think he's going to compete for the starting job with whether it be Geno, whether it be they do draft somebody.
We'll discuss that a little bit.
Yeah, but Seattle. Like we said, they're in full rebuild mode, and now looking at it for the Broncos, looking for Russell Wilson, I think this is the move Russell Wilson has wanted for 2 years now. He was on the doorstep of moving to the Bears last year. I thought he was going to be the Giants' starting quarterback. If you look back, if you're looking back, 6 months ago, I guess was when I was really hot.
Not even that. I would say around December. That's 3 months ago. You kept telling everybody Russ is going to be a Giant.
More specifically, Tyrell. You
were definitely telling Tyrell that over and over, and he did tell you that it's either going to be DJ or they're going to.
I think he was
draft someone. I think he was pretty adamant about keeping. DJ.
Yeah, especially if they did, and they obviously did go on to sign.
His love for Daniel Jones was kind of like my love for Tannehill, and he will never admit that. But
I say equally or unwarranted. Tannehill had one good year under Adam Gase, and outside of that, you could blame Adam Gase, but now look at him with one of the best teams in the league.
I actually put Adam Gase with the Dolphins. He was not as bad as people say he was.
I'm cutting you off right now. That is blasphemy.
But we're getting a little off topic here.
We can rant about the Dolphins later when we actually talk about our off-season moves. But again, for the Broncos, the AFC West.
That is insane.
Now, I do think it's going to be hard for any of those teams to get the number 1 seed. Obviously, somebody has to win that division, but for a team from the AFC West to get the number 1 seed, I think that's kind of unrealistic. I think they're going to cannibalize each other.
Yeah, and kind of what happened this year a little bit, the Chiefs losing to the Chargers, and they also lost to the Titans, which ended up getting the number 1 seed. But you just look at even trying to get a wild card spot in the AFC this year. It's going to be crazy.
It's going to be a lot of AFC West. There's going to be 3 teams probably representing. And
it probably is.
And you could say, there's arguments made that the Chargers are the worst team in that division right now. The first thing I did, text my boy Mainen, who's a Chargers fan, and the first thing I said was hey, the Chargers might be the worst team. And of course he called me crazy because he's a Chargers fan. But if you look at the last game they played in, they lost to the Raiders. So you just look at that. I think undeniably the top 2 teams now are the Chiefs and the Broncos. So after that, it's either Chargers, Raiders. Last time we saw them, we saw the Raiders win.
Yes. And given it was a close game and it was almost a tie. However, it should have been a tie, and we would have been so lucky to see that.
That was so fun.
It would have been so fun to watch just the Steelers get eliminated like that.
Well, as a Ravens fan, I say that with the Dolphins sign on my chest. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and you know what? But just going back to a little bit what I said, you have all 4 of those AFC West teams. You have the Dolphins, the Patriots, the Bills. That's 7 teams right there. And then that's the Titans after that, the Ravens, the Bengals, Pittsburgh even. Mike Tomlin has never gone under 500 in his career. Our friend Jay pointed out this may be the first year that happens, but you know what? They have a really solid defense And they have, meanwhile, I don't like their wide receivers personally. Their wide receiver core is talented. They did improve the offensive line coaching wise. They were coached up a little bit towards the end of that season. That's why Big Ben was able to somewhat lead that team to the playoffs. And I think we'll discuss later about who I think is going to be quarterbacking Pittsburgh next year. But I think they have such a good, versatile coaching staff that they may be able to compete. I mean, I have at least 10 teams that are one game away from making the playoffs.
And that's just the known teams. Going into last season, did you think the Bengals would be a
Hell
good
no.
team? Good team, let alone a Super Bowl team. So you just look
I
at
thought they
teams
were
on
crazy
paper.
for Jamar Chase.
Yeah, and it obviously ended up being the right choice. You got the Rookie of the Year right there.
100%.
But there could be a team out there that could emerge. There's teams like the Jaguars have a lot of money to spend. They have the number 1 pick again, and Trevor Lawrence, I think we've kind of forgotten how good he is. He had to deal with Urban Meyer. He had to deal with a terrible team. So there's possibilities for another team to sneak up there, as well as the 10 teams you just mentioned. So adding Denver to the mix now, they have a good young defense. They're bringing an offensive-minded coach, which is seeming what works here in the NFL, and then bringing in a top 5 quarterback in Russell Wilson is really going to make things interesting.
And you know what? They were actually on the very edge. They didn't get eliminated until week 16 last year. Like they were up there. They were up there.
They were really good.
I think they got eliminated the same week as the Dolphins.
I think they got eliminated the same day you and I went to play basketball. We went to play basketball with Nehemiah and Tyrell. That was a fun day.
Yeah.
That's the day they got eliminated against the Chiefs. So
Yep.
you clearly can't hang with the top of your division. So you have to go out and make a move to get somebody at quarterback. They first tried with Aaron Rodgers, obviously, and we all saw Jerry Jeudy's reaction on Twitter, basically just being upset, and understandably so. Like, he's had to deal with a whole bunch of crap. Like, he's had to deal with Drew Lock, had to deal with Teddy Bridgewater, 2 very different quarterbacks. One's super talented but can't put it together, and one is very limited talented. However, he's definitely a game manager. So he now severely upgrades with quarterback. And the Broncos have a pretty good offensive line. They have a good running back. Well, a good young running back with Javonte Williams. We'll see what happens with Melvin Gordon. And they also have the receivers. So they have a good offense, they have a good defense, they have an offensive-minded coach. So they're definitely going to compete with Kansas City for the division.
Now, it's going to be interesting to see what they do to replace Shelby Harris, because that, once again, like I said, that's a big piece to miss. And they don't have a first or second round pick, obviously. Now, this is a very deep draft as far as defensive linemen. There's also a lot of defensive linemen on free agency that I feel like at least one person can fill that role. We can discuss that a little bit later. But yeah, it's just that team. It's gonna be interesting to see what they can put together with Russell Wilson, just Jerry Jeudy. Now, for those of you that don't know, Jerry Jeudy, he's from down here. And I've talked to people that played with him, played against him. They say that he hasn't really improved since high school. That he's just been that good since high school. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can kind of take that next step now with Russell Wilson, because the better quarterbacks make their receivers better.
Yeah, and he's comparable to DK Metcalf. He doesn't have the quite physical frame. However, in playing styles, I believe they are quite similar. And you have him there. You have the rest of the offense around him. Cortland's son and Tim Patrick. So you lose Noah Fant, of course, which is going to affect the offense a little bit. But I'd rather have Russell Wilson. I'd rather have Russell Wilson than all those. Even though I think both teams end up okay, because I think the Russell Wilson divorce was going to happen one way or another. I think both teams are better from this, and I think the NFL is better for this.
Absolutely, 100%. The only thing that's really missing is Pete Carroll is leading the rebuild for the Seattle, which is kind of, you're having a 70-year-old coach start a rebuild. Like, even the Patriots didn't do that.
Anything could happen. We're recording this Tuesday, March 8th? So anything can happen from now to the free agency, to the draft, to the start of the season. Pete Carroll could retire. He could be kept with the team. And I think it is in Seattle's best interest to let go of Pete Carroll, again, as they should have a long time ago. So we have Aaron Rodgers staying. We have Russell Wilson on the move. things got interesting already. So, moving on from that, we will now take a look at what else could happen. And first, of course, with the quarterback market. And I did this last week with Jacob Brown, where I think certain quarterbacks are going to go. And I have changed a couple. Only really changed it, actually, because of what happened. It's mostly staying the same. I do believe there is some leeway with this. Obviously, anything can really happen. And some of these guys are still on teams, so they could be cut, they could be traded, anything can happen. So we already have Aaron Rodgers staying, we have Russell Wilson on the move, and now who knows? And the first team we're going to start with, same team that Jacob and I started with, the Miami Dolphins. I think we were both in agreement, and actually looking at your phone, I can see it. I think Tua is most clearly the guy.
Tua is definitely the guy. Could we talk about who we might sign as a backup?
That is interesting because Jacoby Brissett is hot garbage.
He's gone.
Yeah,
Just
he's
like,
gone.
No, he doesn't deserve to be in the end. He's the Nathan Peterman of the Dolphins right now.
Now he did okay. In fairness to him, he had to deal with the same offensive line Tua had to deal with. So we give Tua some excuses. Jacoby deserves some excuses. He was serviceable with the Colts. He was serviceable with the Patriots. Is he a starter? Absolutely not. But he will get a job somewhere else as a backup. If you give him a better offensive line, I know he's trash. I just called him trash. Don't give me that petty look to the side. He's trash. I'm well aware of that. But he's gonna get another job. Actually, I was about to say he has the personality for a backup, but he really doesn't because I've seen him multiple times pouting over on the bench. But he is gonna get a job. He's gonna get a job somewhere. He's not on my list. I pray to God he's not on your list for starter potentials. But I think the guy we both would like to see the Dolphins pursue would be Marcus Mariota. Would you agree?
100%. Marcus Mariota is my ideal backup. Either him or bring back Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I think Ryan Fitzpatrick should retire.
He's done.
He's done. That hip injury, career ending. But going back to Marcus Mariota, the way Mike McDaniel described that what he wanted in a backup quarterback, he said he wanted a veteran that can come in when need be and get the job done. That's Marcus Mariota right there. He said someone that will encourage and support the starting quarterback. He just did that for Derek Carr, and Derek Carr had probably one of his best seasons of his career. He made the playoffs this year with an interim head coach having his star wide receiver arrested for manslaughter.
Being an idiot, amongst other charges.
Amongst other things. And he just, with all the controversy that the Raiders had to deal with this season, for Derek Carr to lead his team the way he did, and he gave a lot of that credit back to Marcus Mariota. Argument could be made that he could be a starter elsewhere, but I would really love to see him in Miami as the backup. And this is coming from a guy that, as soon as Tannehill was traded to the Titans, I said Tannehill's taking that job from Trash Mariota.
He's not, okay. Trash is very disrespectful.
That was very disrespectful of me back then, but he is a great quality backup, and I would love to have him here in Miami.
Yeah, and he definitely provides something different. We had Brissett last year as the mobile guy, which basically means you're 6'4", 220 pounds, just shove yourself through the offensive line and hope it works. And how often did that work? It usually did.
Tua did better.
Tua had a touchdown doing that, I think at least one.
He had that and a couple of third and fourth downs on third.
Yeah, overall, if you just take it for how it is, I would rather Brissett do that, especially just with Tua's injury history. He already took one injury, taking shots in the ribs. I would have rather Brissett do it. But with Mariota is actually somebody who is mobile. We saw back in his days, University of Oregon, when he was on Tennessee Titans, and now when he's on the Raiders, that's what he is. He is truly a mobile quarterback, and he can truly provide something different. Now, this is obviously a different coaching staff, but we saw last year with the Wildcat, or the last few years we've seen with the Wildcat, that is something that I can see us bring back Mariota, and he can actually pass the ball out of the Wildcat.
Yeah, absolutely, and the way Mike McDaniel, he likes to be really dynamic, and he's going to be helping a lot on actually both sides of the ball because, like he said, a great offensive mind knows defense as well. So I think he's going to be helping out on both sides of the ball quite a bit. Obviously, offense more than defense, as far as play design and everything else. And the creativity, I believe, is going to be probably some of the best that we've seen for the Dolphins, probably since the Wildcats, to be quite honest, because we were expecting that with Adam Gase, and we got a little bit of it. That's about it. We didn't get anything with Joe Philbin. That was
wow, that was bad.
Yeah, that was an utter disaster. And we never really expected it with Brian Flores. Brian Flores came in as a defensive coach, and he kind of proved that with how, well, trash our offense has been the last 3 years. And I love Brian Flores, so...
we all love him. We all say he shouldn't have been fired, but I do think we are in a better position now, weirdly enough. And as far as just our coaching hires, I am sad to see Gerald Alexander, who I thought could have been promoted to defensive coordinator. He left. Fired.
He was fired.
What it was.
And Charles Burks, who was our cornerbacks coach, also, but he actually left. He wasn't fired. He left. He took the same position with the Bengals. So now he gets to coach Eli Apple. Good for him.
Oh, yeah. I think Eli Apple's a free agent.
He is.
God knows who would sign him.
Yeah.
But Mike comes in, and we definitely could see Mariota come back as a backup. But moving on from the Dolphins, by the same first team as I did last year, and we didn't discuss this at all beforehand. We made this list literally, a minute before we went live?
Yeah.
So with the Washington football team, the Washington Commanders, or I think more appropriate, the Washington Commies, as Jacob Brown said last week. If you guys could hear it. Again, who knows. Washington, I have them going with Jameis Winston. I think the Saints are in such a cap hell that I think Taysom Hill can very realistically be the starter for the Saints. And Washington's in a need of a more dynamic quarterback. Jameis with the Saints last year was 4-2. He played really well with not the best weapons around him. You have Terry McLaurin. Washington is a team that could pursue Amari Cooper if he hits free agency, as well as other wide receivers out there. Curtis Samuel missed pretty much the entirety of last season. He's still under contract with the Washington Commanders. It's going to be the Las Vegas Raiders, Los Angeles Chargers, Washington Commanders are really messing with me right now. But I think Jameis, somebody who he adds some athleticism, he adds a pretty good arm. He could be somebody to take them over the hump. They got to the playoffs 2 years ago with a mixture of different quarterbacks, with Taylor Heineke taken away in the playoffs. And Taylor Heineke wasn't the answer this year, of course, so I think they look to move on for somebody else, and I think that's somebody else. Now that it's not Russell Wilson, which we all saw the links with that, and Seattle ultimately decides to move him out of the conference, I think that person is going to be Jameis Winston. What are you thinking?
That's an interesting thing. I actually I put down here that they're going to, because they've been trying to trade for quarterbacks pretty much all off season. They tried trading for Patrick Mahomes, for crying out loud.
Man, that was bold, wasn't it? Patrick Mahomes, hey, the best quarterback in the league. What do you want for him? Everything. Your wife, your kids, everything.
So I think their main focus is going to be trying to get Deshaun Watson. However, depending on his legal case, now there is coming up on Friday a couple of legal sessions that he's going to be going through. So we'll kind of get a better idea then as to what's going to be going on with that. If they don't, however, push for Watson, I have them going and trying to trade for Jordan Love, actually.
Jordan Love, that's actually not too bad of an idea. Jordan Love, now that Aaron Rodgers is going to be staying with the Packers, Jordan Love most certainly is going to be on the move. That's the whole reason Aaron Rodgers is really mad in the first place. I mean, that amongst not getting him a weapon, which is kind of directly tied, because Jordan Love could have had Justin Jefferson, and gosh, imagine if you put Devontae Adams and Justin Jefferson together.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to be put on the move. I think Jordan Love could have some success elsewhere, and I think it makes a lot of sense for him to go to Washington.
And I do think they should sign a veteran quarterback to be there. I don't really necessarily think that they should have a veteran quarterback go there to compete with him, for the reason that we know Aaron Rodgers, he probably wasn't the best mentor for Jordan Love.
Yeah, no.
He wasn't, Brett Favre probably wasn't the best to Aaron Rodgers, and so that's probably gave him the same tough love, but we all know this generation works better than the previous generation, or works different, not better. Sorry.
Yeah, that's going to cause an uproar.
I meant different.
Hey, adults watching this, in the comments below, hate him.
Hate me, yeah. Go ahead. We know that criticism worked better with the previous generation than it does this generation. You need more encouragement for this generation for them to work better. So I think to have a veteran quarterback to go and encourage Jordan Love as the backup and kind of be what we want Mariota to be to Tua, that's what Jordan Love needs behind him wherever he goes.
He's certainly going to need some form of development, somebody
Yes.
else to help him along. Siri, shut up. I'm not trying to talk to you on my laptop. Okay. So yeah, Jordan Love makes sense, and I will have Jordan Love lower on my list for one of the teams there, but we have Jameis, and he has Jordan for the Washington Commanders. Moving on to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who last year was the last season for Ben Roethlisberger.
Yes.
It should have been Ben's last season like 3 years ago. Him and Pete Carroll should have kicked the can at the same time.
He did good the year before last year.
No, he didn't.
He should have retired. He should have retired the year of his elbow injury.
Yes.
I mean, they did win their division that year after though.
I don't think that's as much to do with him as it is the Steelers. Because the Steelers are, as much as I hate the Steelers, they're very well run. They're very well coached. They didn't have the best offensive lines this year, and they didn't have the best quarterback this year. That's what ultimately held them back. However, I think having Ben stay really disrupted their ability to get better as a team. They could have moved on their quarterback by now. They could have been looking in the draft. They could have been looking in free agency, and they could be in a much better position today had Ben moved on from the team. However, he didn't, and now they're going to be looking to replace him, and I think that guy is going to be Carson Wentz. I think the Colts are going to try to trade him with that contract. I don't think anybody is going to give up anything for him unless the Colts have to give up compensation on top of that.
Kind of like what happened with Brock Osweiler a while back.
Yes, that I think it could be something very similar, except Brock never really played. Did he play at all for the Browns, or they just cut
he played
him?
a preseason game.
Okay, so he didn't play at all, basically. However, I do think he's ultimately going to be cut, and a team like the Steelers could bring him in because Carson Wentz, of just 2 or 3 years ago, was a top quarterback in the league, top 5 quarterback, you could argue, in the league. When he played that 1 year where they won the Super Bowl ultimately without him, he would have been the MVP had he not gone down with injury that year. He was incredible. And last year, he did not play well. He was a shell of himself. You know, you could argue that maybe it was because of the fact that the weapons around him just weren't that good outside of Michael Pittman. You had the offensive line, you had Jonathan Taylor. The weapons weren't there. You could argue that, but I do think he did regress, and I think maybe the other has to do with his confidence and his injury issues. So I think Pittsburgh could look to bring him in as well as drafting a quarterback like Malik Willis, who they've been likened to a lot recently as somebody they could bring in. So that's what I'm going to go. I'm going to go with Carson Wentz with a 1 or 2 year deal, see how he does, maybe look to trade him after that first season, or maybe he becomes the guy. But then ultimately going with Malik Willis, who we've seen the videos of him in the combine as well as outside the combine. So he's definitely a kid with character, which is something you want in a quarterback, and is somebody with talent. He has the arm, he has the mobility. So I'm gonna go with Wentz and Willis. What do you got, sir?
So I'm gonna go a similar direction to you. I do think they're gonna draft Malik Willis, and I love the way he walks around with that swag, and he has kind of like almost like that it factor. I'm not gonna say that Joe Burrow-esque, but kind of like similar to how Joe Burrow walks around with his head up high and that confidence that he has. It's very similar. Now,
Just
obviously, the talent level
minus the Heisman, minus the
minus the
championship.
Heisman in the national championship. He does have a cannon for an arm.
Yeah, he does.
But I think they're going to go in a little bit different direction as far as veteran quarterback. I think they're going to keep Haskins.
Oh, Dwayne Haskins?
Dwayne Haskins. They're going to keep Dwayne Haskins. He was on the roster last year. He was their QB3. Behind Mason Rudolph was their QB2. I think they get rid of Mason Rudolph. I think Haskins, he had a year in the system. Plus, that coaching staff, they kind of want someone that similarly resembles a young Big Ben. Someone who is semi-mobile, with an arm.
Which I can argue Carson Wentz is very similar in that nature. I think Carson Wentz is by no means mobile. However, I think he is comparable when you look at like a middle middle age, like a middle of his career Ben Roethlisberger in terms of mobility, and of course he has the arm.
Yeah, he definitely has the arm. His accuracy towards the end of the last season, though, and like I don't know if it was that foot injury that lingered around. Like they were questioning whether he even play. What was it? The first 3 weeks of the season, but he was ahead of schedule on his rehab on his foot surgery that he had. Now, his injury history is worse than Tua's, and it's like most of Tua's injuries have come on like hard or awkward hits. Wentz really hasn't.
Yeah, and Wentz also has that big body, so Tua doesn't really have much to protect himself with, whereas Wentz is 6'4", 6'5", 230 pounds. He's
a unit.
And he uses it, and that's arguably him using it could be what's led to his injuries.
Yes. I see where you're coming from on Wentz. I think that contract is going to be way too hard to move.
Well, I have him cutting. I have the Colts cutting him, eating some of his contract, and then moving on and signing.
I thought you said trade. I'm sorry.
No, I said they're going to look to do that at first, but I don't think they're going to find a suitor because of the contract.
Okay.
Dwayne Trashkins, he's not good, and he doesn't have his head screwed on straight. So it's that you have guys that you question their talent level, but ultimately their character, their work in the locker room gets them along. I think the only thing getting Haskins along is the fact that he was a first-round pick. I think him and Josh Rosen are have very similar careers. They're going to get opportunities to be backups. They're going to keep getting signed to teams. However, I don't think he's ever going to cement himself as a guy anywhere.
I do think that they keep him around. They kept him, and the way that Mike Tomlin talked about him when he was asked about him, he said that he's doing the work and he's getting better every day. Now, what else is a coach really going to say about your third-string quarterback? I get that. However, if it really was anything worse, why would they keep a third-string quarterback on roster?
Well, a lot of teams. Well, was he on the active roster?
He was on the active roster.
Fair enough. I don't think he's going to end up being the guy, but that is definitely an option for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the team that I have Carson Wentz leaving, the Indianapolis Colts, is who we're going to talk about next. And there's definitely a few directions they can go in. I don't think they're going to go with the draft. They don't have a first-round pick, and if the first-round quarterbacks aren't really the best, what does the second and third-round quarterbacks look like? So I don't have them going to the draft, and this one I'm not particularly passionate about because this guy has a lot of links elsewhere, and that being Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky, I think, deserves an opportunity. I think he can be a low-end starter. He has the physical traits. He's 6'2", 6'3". He's mobile. He has a good arm. And with the Chicago Bears, I don't think what we saw there was fair. Obviously, Matt Nagy is not a good coach. Obviously, Matt Nagy was a big part of the struggles for the Chicago Bears. And I think Mitch Trubisky, the second overall pick, he's not worth that. But Mitch Trubisky, just the NFL quarterback, he has a lot of things that you can assign. He was a
Pro Bowler.
He was a Pro Bowler. He got to the playoffs. So this guy is you can put him on the board. If you're checking off boxes, there's a lot of boxes that can be checked off with Mitch Trubisky, and there is some ties with him going to New York. So that's why I'm not 100% passionate about this, because you have Brian Dable there. He was the backup in Buffalo before, so that makes a lot of sense. But for me, the Colts got to go somebody. I think there could be somebody off the street, and for me, that guy is Mitch Trubisky.
See, I think they're going to keep Wentz.
Really?
That contract is just it's an utter disaster. If they cut him, they barely save anything. I think it was they have $20 million dead cap, and they only save $7 or something.
Yes, but they are in a very good cap position. They have the fifth most cap in the league with $42 million.
I understand that, but at that point,
and they have a roster that they could win right now.
Which is why I say they go and draft a quarterback. Maybe try to use some of their draft assets to move up, because they do have a lot of draft assets, stored years down. They really haven't traded many picks.
Yeah, but you're talking about a class that already is questionable. If you were talking about how last year David Mills drafted in the third round is better than every quarterback, even the first quarterback, Kenny Pickett, who is the projected first quarterback off the board. They said that what's his name again? I just said
David Mills.
Davis
Mills.
Davis Mills is better than all those guys. So you already used that first round pick to go and get Carson Wentz, who I think we can agree has been a failure. I don't think they're going to take that capital and then keep Wentz and then move up and get somebody else who already has a lot of question marks on top of it.
You do have a point. I did forget when I wrote that down that they didn't have a first round pick.
Yeah.
So I'll give you that. So I'm going to go off the top of my head here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say that they do sign a quarterback off the street. I'm going to go Jameis Winston.
Okay. Well, does that mean that Jameis Winston isn't in the rest of your list? Because
Jameis Winston kind of is, but that's the thing. So
his maybes.
So my maybe on this is the Jameis Winston scenario. There's going to be teams that you say you're going to go after a quarterback, and it just never works out. Kind of like last year, how the Dolphins were supposed to get Watson, never worked out.
That was fun.
Hip hip hooray.
1-7.
Jeez. And I think that the Colts have been that team really, like they didn't really want Wentz. He was just the best available option for them to get last year.
I don't know if I necessarily agree. I
don't think they wanted him.
Carson Wentz. I mean, look at Philadelphia. Carson Wentz. He was warranted of a second round pick. Did it work out? No, but I think hindsight's a beautiful thing. And in the moment, I mean, I thought it was an absolute W.
I did too. Which is why I also think that they keep him. Maybe another year in the system. Because, his rookie year, he kind of struggled a little bit his rookie year, and that was his first year in the system. His second year in the system is when he was going to, win MVP and win Super Bowl and blah, 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 blah. So, I still think that they keep him no matter what. I don't think that they trade him. I don't think that they cut him. I think they keep him. It's not worth it to sit there and cut ties with him. It's just... No, there's not much cap savings, and like you said, they have plenty of cap, so what do they really need to cut him for?
That's fair. I definitely understand that. I think he's going to end up on the Steelers. I think Mr. Trubisky's going to be brought off the street, but keeping him is definitely an option.
I do have Mr. Trubisky going somewhere else.
But also the way the team's talking, like we talk about who's the owner, Jim Irsay?
Mm-hmm.
I think non-committal is putting it at best in a press conference regarding Carson Wentz. So I think all signs of him leaving. So I think he will leave, and I think Mr. Trubisky is the guy. However, there's a good chance he could stay. Moving on to the San Francisco 49ers, and we didn't discuss any of these. However, I do believe we're on the same page with this one. I think Trey Lance is going to be given the job. I think it's complete smokescreen that he's not ready. You agree?
I think that he is the guy. They moved up to number 3 for a reason, and there's no shot that they're not going to give him at least a chance on that field. With a team that went to the NFC Championship game, like there's not a chance that they're not going to give him at least half a season to go and play. Like go and show us something.
He's very talented. He has a lot to show. He's mobile. He's tall. He's strong. He's got a great arm.
He's very raw.
Yeah, he's very opposite of Garoppolo. And if you look at the Shanahan mold, he is the opposite of what you're accustomed there because, we all know how bad Kyle Shanahan wanted Kirk Cousins. And there was a legitimate conversation that Mac Jones would have been the 3rd overall pick. And leading into the draft, I was kind of concerned that's the way they were going to go. Obviously, that's not the case. But we saw him twice this season play when Garoppolo went down. And he was serviceable. He was most certainly better than Jordan Love. Jordan Love has been in that Packers system for 2 years now, has Devontae Adams, has a good offensive line, and he did nothing. He went out and threw a dud. Trey Lance came in, and he was servable, had 2 touchdowns, 200-something yards in one of the games, so I think he most certainly deserves a chance. The only way he's not the guy is if Brady comes back and Brady goes to the 49ers.
That's you. That was your thing. He was waiting to tell me this. For the podcast.
I don't think that's what I was talking. I don't remember what I was talking about with that, but I don't think this is what I was talking about because I think if Brady does come back, we both agree. We think Brady's
not going to be with Tampa.
Well, it's not going to be with Tampa, but I don't think he's coming back at all. I think he's done. But if he were to come back, which I would love to see him come back. I mean, since he's gone to the Patriots, I haven't hated him anymore. I actually kind of like him.
Yeah.
So it'd be cool to see him come back, and it'd be cool to see him play for his hometown team. And his hometown team, 49ers, well, not hometown team, but his favorite team growing up.
Yeah, because he idolized
Joe Montana.
It was Joe Montana.
Yeah, and so it would make so much sense to be a nice storybook ending just to go there for 1 year and try to make it work because he's most certainly an upgrade on Garoppolo. And I think if he were to come back, I think that might make a lot of sense. However, I think we're both in agreeing that Trey Lance is the guy.
Because, just to touch base a little bit on his situation with Tampa Bay, if he does choose to come back and it's not with Tampa Bay, Bruce Arians already said he would not accommodate where Tom Brady wants to go. And he's a very stubborn guy, and I actually believe him when he says that. He's going to go tell Brady to fly a kite.
Yeah, but he's the coach at the end of the day. I think the GM, you're not holding Brady down. You're not telling Brady you have to come play for us. You can't do that.
And
you can, but you can't.
And so Brady has the contract, how it works. I looked through it because I thought he had a player option this year. He actually does not. When he signed his extension, he is signed through 2022 season, and then in 2023 through 2025, each season he has a player option. So he can if he can force his way out of Tampa to go to the 49ers, which I think he can, but I do believe Bruce on he's going to try to do everything in his power to kind of keep Brady if he can.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think Brady is done. I think he's going to go off and enjoy retirement and live that life.
I don't know if he's going to enjoy retirement.
Well, he's going to find something to do. He's going to golf. But he also has all those other brands. He has clothing brand. He's somebody that
he needs to compete somehow.
But he's also just dedicated. So he's going to find something to devote himself to. But the Buccaneers are going to need to find a replacement. And I mean, if Brady comes back or not, I think this is a trade that could happen. If he comes back, I think this could be a trade that could happen. But I think it will be a trade that we'll see the Buccaneers acquire Jimmy Garoppolo as their new quarterback. Jacob made a very good point last week that would mean they're trading Garoppolo to one of their biggest threats in the NFC. Because at the end of the day, Buccaneers, they're going to lose a couple people. They're probably going to lose Ryan Jensen. They tagged Chris Godwin, who I thought was going to leave, but they tagged him today. So
they still have Mike Evans.
They still have Mike Evans. They still have a good defense, and
they still have good tight ends too. O.J. Howard and
they don't have Gronk anymore. They have Cameron Brate.
Cameron Brate, yes.
Yeah. So they have a good roster. So Tampa Bay isn't done now. It would take a lot for them to beat a team like the 49ers, like the Rams, some other teams moving that could get better going into next season.
What's their cap situation looking like?
The Buccaneers cap, I think they're around $20 million, but that might have changed. Actually, yes, the Buccaneers currently, as things stand, are in the red. They're at negative $16 million. So they're $16 million over the cap, so they're going to have to figure some things out going into next season.
I was going to say maybe they can sign some, because there's a lot of corners hitting free agency that are good corners, and they need corners very, very badly on that defense. But being in the negative as it is and tagging Godwin, it's gonna be very hard to try to get a good corner that's in free agency. It is very deep free agency as far as corner's concerned, but everybody's gonna want top dollar.
Yeah, but ultimately, corner isn't what's going to decide your team. With
that
quarterback
is true.
In 2022 now, the quarterback is what decides things. If you look at all the teams that won their division this last season, it was the teams with the best quarterback. And you're going to have to compete. In order to compete, you got to go out and get a quarterback. And my only concern is whether the 49ers would trade Garoppolo to, like I said, one of their biggest threats. So I think it's very realistic that maybe the Colts or not the Colts, but the Pittsburgh Steelers can make a move for Garoppolo. However, I have them going the way they're going. And are you agreeing?
I do have Jimmy G going too. And I also, along with Jimmy G going there, let's not forget about someone who signed to their practice squad after he left Miami.
Oh, goodness.
Josh Rosen returning to the Buccaneers to try and compete with Jimmy G to get some playing time. I think he's going to ultimately be the backup. However, he was in that system before.
But what about Kyle Trask? They used a second-round pick on him last year. I'd rather throw out Kyle Trask than I'd rather throw out Josh Rosen.
You know, that is true. But when he left the Buccaneers, he went to go be he was going to be the starter for San Francisco if they made the playoffs, because that year that he was there, San Francisco missed the playoffs, but Jimmy G was out for the season, and they had C.J. Beathard. They needed to win that last week that he signed with them. Obviously, he wasn't ready to go in there, but they said that he would have been the starter for 49ers if they made the playoffs.
Yeah, that's interesting. He's limited, definitely limited. However, the man got to a Super Bowl. The man this year got to the conference championship. So he's a grown-up. He has some redeeming qualities at the quarterback position.
He's probably the best game manager in the game right now.
And that's definitely what he is. He gets the ball out of his hands last year, getting it to Kittle, getting it to Deebo Samuel. It was what got them to the Super Bowl. On the doorstep of the Super Bowl. And I think he can go over to this Buccaneers team, and it's going to be a weakened Buccaneers team because they're going to lose players like Jensen. They're going to lose Leonard Fournette. They've already lost Antonio Brown, losing Gronkowski. So that team is going to be depleted a little bit. Mm-hmm. But in order to compete, they're going to go out and get a quarterback. They're going to figure out what to do with his contract. Maybe try to convert more of it to a bonus and just give it to him up front so it doesn't affect the cap as much. But we both have Garoppolo going to the Buccaneers. Mm-hmm. And that leads us into another NFC team who, as of today, they moved off their quarterback. That being the Seattle Seahawks. And in that draft, in that trade, they got in Drew Lock, and I don't think Drew Lock's the long-term option. However, I also don't think they're going to bring anybody else in or draft somebody. So I think it's going to be a competition of Drew Lock and Geno Smith. I have Drew Lock ultimately winning out the job. What do you got?
I'm going to take a pause here.
Oh, boy.
I got it.
Donovan's doing some thinking, or?
No.
Oh.
Mitch Trubisky.
Hey, there we go.
Going to Seattle. However, if they don't get him, they're tanking for Bryce.
Well, I think
they're taking for Bryce Young, and as they should. Bryce Young is going to be the fourth Alabama quarterback to be drafted to the NFL in the last 5 years, and he's going to be probably
the best of the bunch.
Probably the best of the bunch. That's saying a lot considering Tua was.
Well, we're not talking. When we talk best of the bunch, we're talking about in the NFL.
As far as coming from Alabama to the NFL, out of the four of them coming out of college, Bryce probably has the highest potential, and that was saying a lot because everybody was saying Tua was going to be the lefty Drew Brees.
He still can be.
He still can be, and I'm hoping Mike McDaniel will unlock that in him. We kind of discussed this a little bit earlier, how what we want to see in a quarterback, how you don't really need physical dominance in the quarterback position to be a dominant quarterback, he just needs the mentals. So you need the confidence, which we haven't really seen him have the confidence. The determination, I think he has that, and I think he's proven that.
Who are we talking about right now?
Tua.
I think we were talking about Trubisky this whole time. I was like,
no.
Wait, what?
No, you're looking at me weird. Yeah, I went a little off topic. We'll get back to the Dolphins a little bit later. Back to.
Hey guys, listen to this drinking game started right now.
Whenever Donovan
mentions
the Dolphins.
Go back to the beginning of this video.
Whenever Donovan gets off topic.
About the Dolphins specifically, you know what to do. Yes, but please enlighten us about Mitch Trubisky with
Mitch Trubisky's going to the Seattle Seahawks. I just think it's probably the best fit for both teams. Mitch Trubisky is a little bit more mobile than most pocket quarterbacks are. I would say he's probably as mobile as Patrick Mahomes. Maybe a little bit less.
I'd say he's a little bit more. I think he's
really,
because I think he's a little more naturally athletic. Mahomes is athletic. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes it looks a little weird. Sometimes it looks a little awkward.
he does run a little awkwardly.
He kind of has a pretty boy run.
Yeah,
it's like he runs like this, like a dinosaur.
So I think he'll need that mobility around that trash offensive line, and he has a good arm. The accuracy, he can work on it, And
why I can't.
He did have a year behind Josh Allen and Brian Dable to kind of learn And Josh Allen is on the move all the time. So I can only imagine what he kind of like took from that and learned in, because he is a very smart quarterback coming out of college. And like we talked about earlier, he made the Pro Bowl. So he has the talent. Now, can he put it together? I think if he does go to Seattle, that makes Seattle a little bit more of a contender, maybe a low wild card berth team.
They couldn't even do it with Russell Wilson. You think they're going to do it with him?
They have now 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks.
Oh, no, they don't, because they don't have their own first rounder.
They don't have their own first round? Oh, they traded that.
It's Jamal Adams.
Yeah, Jamal Trash Adams.
What's the second one from? Because they got the one pick from Denver. Where's the other pick?
Oh, I was talking about the next year or so.
They have assets to
so
trade.
They did whatchamacallit? They just got 2 first-round picks from Denver. However, it's going to be one this year, one next year. They also have 2 second-round picks, one this year, one next year. I think over that time, they can kind of. I thought they had both first-round picks this year. So they do only have 1 first-round pick this year, but they do have 2 second-round picks. And they can go and. You missed epically.
I was just tossing. I wasn't aiming anywhere. I was just throwing it.
And they do. You lost my train of thought.
Dolphins.
Dolphins.
Drink.
Fuck. Shit.
Mr. Trubisky.
Mr. Trubisky.
Very interesting topic.
Very interesting topic. I think, they still have the weapons in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf, may be traded. I think they should trade him for more assets, especially if they are doing this rebuild correctly. However, if they're going to try to do a quick turnaround, I think Mitch Trubisky is the guy. It really depends on what they want to do. Pete Carroll is 70 years old, and
gone. Get him out of here.
We want him gone.
I'm not even a Seahawks fan. I'm just that passionate about it for some reason.
He's bad for the NFL. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of fair to say. he's not like an actual nuisance.
Okay, he's not an actual nuisance, but it annoyed us to watch him waste half of Russell Wilson's career.
Yes,
and as well as Bobby Wagner, who is now on the move.
Yeah.
But they do have, once again, Shelby Harris. That defensive line has a lot of talent on it. They have young defensive corners and defensive backs that team can possibly be.
No.
Shaking your head.
No.
Depending on what they do in the draft. Now, Pete Carroll has been terrible in the draft besides DK Metcalf. And even then, I've always said that DK Metcalf is overrated. I still think he's a good wide receiver. People are praising him to be like a top 10 receiver. I don't even think he's there yet.
Seattle's in a very bad position. I disagree with everything you said. Seattle is going to be tanking for Bryce Young, no matter who their quarterback is, because I don't agree with Mitch Trubisky, because I think Mitch Trubisky is good enough to be a low-end starter. I think they're more looking for somebody to bridge this year, just get them through this year, and then go to the draft next year. And it's when they would look to draft a Caleb Williams, a Bryce Young.
And I do think a good bridge
I think Mr. Trubisky could ruin that by getting them to the 11th pick.
You mean kind of like how Ryan Fitzpatrick won us 5 games?
Bingo.
Exactly. And they may do that following Brian Flores' footsteps and not tanking correctly for $100,000 a game.
Woo! Miami
Dolphins drink.
Yep. There you go. Oh my gosh. We're sorry for the liver failure that you're about to have.
We knew this was happening when I'm on the show. Yeah. Come on, guys.
Wrap up the Seattle. Wrap it up.
Okay, so wrapping up Seattle, I think a good bridge quarterback could also be Drew Lock, especially for tanking. He can show all his raw potential. I've always said I like Drew Lock, but he never had the right coaching staff with him. Like you said before, he had all the talent but could not put it together. His rookie season, he was electric when he came in. I was excited to see what the future had for him. Unfortunately, hindsight, beautiful thing, kind of sucks.
Beautiful thing, just as I am.
Sorry.
Yeah, Seattle's in a very, very bad situation. I don't think it's going to get any better, especially this season. I think they're going to just accept that they're going to suck, especially in that division. Look what you got to compete with. Arizona with Kyler, Stafford, and the Rams that just won the Super Bowl. in the 49ers, who just got to the NFC Championship game. So they're not competing this year. They're not going to be a walk-hard team, no matter who's their quarterback, unless they somehow pull off a top quarterback. Like, if Deshaun becomes available, they now have some extra assets, which that wouldn't be the weirdest thing in the world. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to suck this year. I think it's with Drew Lock. You think it's going to be with Mr. Trubisky. Tomato at back, pretty much. The last one I want to really talk about a lot, well, not necessarily a lot, but the last one I want to really talk about, these next few ones we can talk about, I just want to talk about a little bit. This one, the Carolina Panthers, this is where I think Jordan Love's going to go. I think the Packers would ideally like to ship him out of the conference. However, I don't think he's that good that you really have to worry about that much. And the Carolina Panthers, they missed out on Russ. They missed out on Aaron Rodgers. They were really high on Deshaun Watson, but you can't touch that situation with a 10-yard stick. Like, you have to let that play out and then see what happens. Then see what the NFL deems with that. On top of the fact that he might be arrested. Like, that's not out of the realm of possibility. So I think they're not going to get the best of options, and I think let's go young. Now, they try to go with Sam Darnold. Before that, they looked to go with Teddy Bridgewater. That didn't work. They went with Sam Darnold. That didn't work. And I don't necessarily think this is going to work either, but I think they're just putting the real out there. Whatever bites, and I think what bites this time is Jordan Love.
I'm going to go a little bit different direction. I'm going to go drafting Kenny Pickett.
Okay. I actually have him coming up very soon. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I do think they move on from McCaffrey. I think he gets traded, possibly. I don't want him, but I think possibly to the Dolphins.
That's like a quarter shot.
It's a quarter shot, because it deserves to be mentioned, because he is in the talks, and pick 29 is semi-reasonable for him. I wouldn't give that up for a player that has played 6 games in the past 2 seasons.
And you're paying, what, $16 million?
Yeah, so I wouldn't touch that situation with a 10-foot pole. However, it's been reported by multiple sources that the Dolphins are interested in trading for him. I don't know if that's Carolina's asking price or if that's what's going to happen. I do think they move on from him and get some picks, so I think they can possibly use those assets to move up if need be to get Pickett.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I have him going young as well. Kenny Pickett is probably going to be the first quarterback taken off the board. It could be Malik Willis. It could be the kid out of Ole Miss whose name
escapes
me right now. But I think it makes a lot of sense. They've been trying to find their franchise quarterback, and they've been struggling to do so, and I don't think that they're going to find it this year. The draft is, if you are looking to the draft for a starter, it could work. One of these guys could really impress, because we've seen in years past, like, we didn't expect Lamar Jackson to work. Russell Wilson was a 3rd-round pick. Like,
Davis Mills was
a 3rd-round pick. So there's people that surprise every single year.
What did anybody expect the Texans to
be respectable?
They had won 5 games.
Yeah, they had a respectable season. We all thought they were going to be the worst team, and they weren't good, but they weren't awful.
I definitely was expecting the Jaguars to top them, and that turned out to be an utter disaster. Yeah. I am opposite side of you on the Jaguars situation, however, but we can get into that another time.
Yeah, so Jordan Love, Kenny Pickett, both I think are equally possible. I think both make sense with that. The team where I do have Kenny Pickett going is the New Orleans Saints. I have him, again, like I mentioned previously, I have him sticking with Taysom Hill, who we saw him play the end of the season. He's the only decent quarterback under contract. Jameis Winston's a free agent. Taysom Hill signed that really weird contract that I'm not sure what's going to happen with that, because he's earning a lot of money.
So basically how that contract works is that I believe, I'm not sure about the exact numbers, so don't quote me on this.
Or really anything we say.
Or anything we really say, but if he's signed to, or if he plays mostly at tight end, I believe, so if 50% or more of his snaps come at a position that is not quarterback, he gets paid as a tight end, so he makes, say, $7 million a year. Now, if he plays 50% or more snaps at quarterback, he he then makes his quarterback earnings, which is $20 million a year.
Okay, so that definitely makes that situation a lot clearer. So, but he is the only decent quarterback that is under contract there.
I wouldn't even say he's a decent quarterback.
Do
we recall the COVID year when he started against Denver and they started against a practice squad wide receiver that was a quarterback in high school?
Yeah, and he still struggled. I'm not saying he's a good quarterback, but things we've mentioned about some of these other quarterbacks, they have traits that you can point at. He's athleticism, even though that's not necessarily a quarterback trait. His athleticism is workable. So I have him there. I have him there staying, and then I have him bring in Pickett. What do you got going on?
Okay, so back to this. Resign Winston.
With what money?
He's a fairly cheap quarterback.
Okay, but looking at their cap space, I don't know. Actually, you know what? The Packers just surpassed them by $1 million. They're at $45 million in the hole. That's why they can't re-sign Teron Armstead. That's why they last year couldn't re-sign Trey Hendrickson.
They're going to have to let a lot of people walk.
Including Jameis Winston.
No, they're going to have to release people. Jameis Winston's going to cost you $2 million a year. You have to fill...
I don't know if he is. That was his last contract, but he went 4-2 when he was healthy.
Yeah, but now you're talking about if he goes to... What team is going to put him in a better situation than what...
Washington.
Washington is...
Washington is in
a better... Yes.
Saints are in hell.
Saints are a borderline... Saints are a borderline playoff team with him as well.
Saints are... No, actually,
But Michael Thomas is coming back.
But like you just mentioned, they already missed the playoffs last season. They just lost Sean Payton. Who knows how Dennis Allen does as head coach? You're going to have to cut people, and you're probably going to have to do even more if you bring Jameis back. They already reworked a few contracts that saved them $20 million. However, how many people on the team are worth just giving their money up front? And with Michael Thomas is one of those. However, he's also kind of a diva. So who knows what he does halfway through the season if the team sucks, and then you just gave him his whole contract up front. That's why a lot of teams don't do that more often, is because, it would help the cap, but ultimately these are millions of dollars, and I don't care how rich your owner is, you're never rich enough just to piss away $16 million. So it'd be really difficult them to do anything in terms of free agency. Like we saw before we recorded this that they're linked with Tyrann Mathieu, and it's like, how are you going to re-sign somebody or how are they going to sign somebody who is in a position that's arguably the least valuable of every position on the field you're going to sign him to a contract when you already don't have money, and then he's a position that doesn't really matter. So I don't think they can sign really anybody, and that includes Jameis Winston. But, they could find a way to make it work. So
I do think they find a way to make it work, because like I said, they still have to fill the roster somehow, some way. I think if they try to convince him by keeping Alvin Kamara, keeping Michael Thomas, that they can try to convince him to come back to a good situation there. Most of their defensive players, besides the defensive backfield, like their defensive line is mostly draft picks. So, they have a cheapish defense. So most of their money's tied up in, Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas for that matter, Teron Armstead. Those are players. If they can find a way to keep them and relieve cap and still maybe sign him to $7 million, $10 million contract, even if you tried to backload it.
I think that's just too much to ask. So I do think they're going to stick with what they got and then draft Kenny Pickett. We did skip over one team. I'm just going to rattle this off really quickly. I think the Lions are going to stick with Jared Goff. Do you have them changing that at all?
Lions keeping Jared Goff and drafting a young quarterback and trying to develop.
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say. The Browns. Now I talked about this last week on the show, and we've been talking about quarterbacks for a very long time now, so I want to keep this to a minimum since I already talked about it a lot. I think Browns should look to move off Baker Mayfield. Now 2 of your top options are gone, so I don't think you can. But this is a team that, again, can win right now. This is a good roster. You have good line, good had good weapons, and then you guys were convinced that Baker was not the problem, that Odell was the problem. Anyways, the defense is good. The head coach was coach of the year 2 years ago. So they're in a position where, 2 years ago, they were on the doorstep of beating the Chiefs in the playoffs, go on and play Buffalo. Who knows what happens with that? And then Chad Henne did something for the first time in his career. So you were really close to going to the conference championship, and this year you extremely underperformed. So I think you have to. The conversations are obviously already happening. However, I think eventually they do need to move up Baker Mayfield. This year, I think they're going to keep Baker Mayfield, and I think they're going to sign Tyler Huntley. That's, I think, what you were talking about before. Again, because we made this minutes before we recorded this, and we started talking about Tyler Huntley. And I think Tyler Huntley deserved the opportunity to compete to a starting job. Mm-hmm. How we saw him go out there and perform, he really was a baby Lamar. He, similar to Lamar, not good in the pocket. However, he can make plays happen. And I think he's going to deserve an opportunity. And I think backing up Baker Mayfield is a good opportunity. Very quickly, do you have the Browns doing anything interesting?
You kind of stole my thunder there. I do think that the Browns, meanwhile, they shouldn't stick with Baker. Like you said, there's not options out there other than really Tyler Huntley at this point. I doubt they go and get Mitch Trubisky, but I don't even think Mitch Trubisky can. He is better than Baker, I will say that, but you have to try to throw a dart blindly and hope you get a bullseye. And I think Tyler Huntley is that dart. He played great for the Ravens. He didn't really win, but he he played great for them. Now, no one expected him to come in, and we all know the Ravens receivers suck. They just suck.
Yeah.
So how can a quarterback throw when his receivers suck and your running back is your 7th string running back?
They were really just ad-libbing that at the end of the year.
Yeah, you're without Lamar, you're without. I mean, your best.
Dobbins, Gus Edwards.
Your best wide receiver was Hollywood Brown, and he can't hold on to the ball.
Isn't there rumors of him retiring for gaming?
There was rumors of him possibly retiring.
That broke, and then nobody talked about it 10 minutes later. That came up and then dropped, out of nowhere.
Because he can do it on the side during the off season. It's not like.
It doesn't sound realistic.
Yeah, but you can go and play video games and make $150,000 a year. I mean, unless you're Tim the Tap Man.
Which he's got a long way to go.
Yeah, Tim the Tap Man. Someone said that he made $80K in a month, and he said that was on the low side.
Yeah, he's
that. So, anyways, back to Tyler Huntley. He really did play great. I really can't specify otherwise. It's more of like a watching him kind of thing, where he's doing things you don't expect him to do. He really was a baby Lamar, like Jacob said, and he just
he's good enough to get a job. Basically,
I believe he deserves a shot, and he is a blind dart throw, and I think they need
something different than the Browns have with Baker.
Because the Browns, they already lost Odell. They did tag Njoku. Is it Njoku or
Njoku?
Okay, Njoku. I'm sorry. But they're also on the cusp of losing Jarvis Landry. Yeah. Jarvis Landry is not happy there. He's not.
I don't blame him.
I don't blame him either. I think he should come back to the Dolphins. That's not realistic.
Shot.
Not realistic. I am, hoping.
I think he goes to more of a contender.
I don't doubt that he goes to either Dallas or the Rams.
2 teams that have no money.
No, but you're talking about he's going to be cheaper than Amari Cooper, and Dallas might move off of Amari Cooper.
This is true.
And also, being a free agent is Michael Gallup, and there's rumors that they're not going to bring back Michael Gallup. So now you're talking about possibly, besides the Rams, the best trio in the league: CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Michael Gallup.
Yeah, but I think Amari Cooper's all but
CeeDee Lamb.
I think Cooper's pretty much gone. But to wrap up the Browns, Baker Mayfield needs some sort of push. And I don't think Tyler Huntley is necessarily better than Baker, but I do think he provides a different option. And who knows what happened. The last one, I don't really want to talk about this too long, but I think Titans are going to roll out with Tannehill. However, I think bringing in Teddy Bridgewater would be a really good idea because we saw them. I'm not saying he's better than Tannehill. I'm saying we saw them do something very similar with Mariota. Mariota was struggling. They brought in Tannehill. Tannehill won the job. Tannehill is struggling. Don't go nowhere. I'm not saying, look at me. I'm not saying Bridgewater is better than Tannehill. I'm saying Tannehill clearly has some issues and some limitations, and it came to bite him at the end. And I don't think they're going to go on trying to replace him. However, I think they might get somebody just to light a fire under his butt.
And you think that fire is Teddy Bridgewater?
I think he's a cheap option to bring in as a backup that you could sign for $3 or $4 million, and somebody who you can win games with need be. Look what he did with the Saints with a really good roster. He won 5 games. 5 games in a row. I'm not saying it's for sure going to happen. I'm not saying he's going to be the starter. I'm saying they need to bring in somebody that can push him. Bring Mariota back?
Not happening.
Yeah, but they need to bring in somebody that can push him. Can you at least agree that? Because what we saw with Tannehill at the end of the season, you can't have when you're the number 1 seed in the AFC.
At the end of the season, we saw with Tannehill kind of similar to what he started to do with the Dolphins at the end of his Gates tenure. Now, this is relevant. He did not do a shot.
Anytime I just point, you guys know what's going on.
No shot on this. He tries to do a little bit too much, and it gets him in trouble. There were a couple of those interceptions that he threw in that playoff game that I thought were not on him. They do need to improve that offensive line a little bit better. It's so weird how that offensive line works there, how they're so good at run blocking, but their pass protection is so ass.
Yeah, and Tannehill, that definitely leads to Tannehill's struggles. Again, I'm not saying he's for sure. I'm not saying he's been leaving.
No.
I'm just saying
I know what you're saying.
He needs some encouragement via force. And
I do think that, and
I think it is Teddy Bridgewater. Or Teddy Bridgewater could go to a team like Washington also. So I don't think it's, again, I'm not completely, I didn't even want to talk about this. I just want to throw it out there.
I honestly, I would have, what's the kid's name that's in Washington now? Heineke. I was thinking Heineke.
That's not a bad option. That is certainly not a bad option.
Because Heineke is a proven backup, and God forbid Tannehill does get hurt, he's a great backup, way better than Teddy. I think he's a fairly cheap option at this point too. I think the Commanders need to move on from him, and he did some great things for Washington when he was there. Middle of the road quarterback. I think he tries to do too much as well, but he's trying to prove himself. So why not go prove himself? Try and do that in practice with the Titans.
Yeah, you
put some pressure on Tannehill. I do agree, Tannehill needs some pressure. However, Teddy Bridgewater.
It's just somebody. Okay, moving on. That wraps up the quarterback discussion. Very quickly, we have our top 5 free agents, and then we're going to get into the Dolphins free agents. Thank you for those listening again. We are already an hour, 20 minutes into this so far, and we haven't got to the Dolphins yet. And we got to keep in mind my camera because we were joking around beforehand. The camera has a life of about 2 hours and 10 minutes.
We got about 20 minutes left.
Well, we got more than that. But I'm gonna put out a name. I want you to tell me where they're going, starting with J.C. Jackson.
Staying with Patriots.
Staying with the Patriots? No shot. I think he's no chance. I think that he's gonna be asking for more money than he's worth. I think he should be paid. However, we've seen the Patriots. I mean, they just got rid of Kyle Van Noy because he wasn't to them worth the contract, which is what we saw from the Dolphins do to him. But I think he's going to ask a little bit more than what he's worth, and that's something the Patriots do not do. I think a team like the Chargers, who are currently sitting now, they are apparently, even though they signed Mike Williams, according to OverTheCap.com, the Chargers are the number 1 team now after the Dolphins franchise tagging Mike Gesicki. So according to this, the Chargers are the top team when it comes to cap, and they need defense. So I have J.C. Jackson, the cornerback, formerly the Patriots, going to the Chargers. I think this is the next one, very easy. I think we both agree. Teron Armstead, Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about that in a second. Newly free agents. It's Bobby Wagner. I want to hear from you first. Where do you think he's going to go? Because we both, when we made this list, we both said we didn't like it. And I want to know if you're not liking it is the same as my not liking it. So what's your not liking it?
Gonna play a song real quick.
Oh, don't get us demonetized. 3 people watching this. Hi, guys. If you're still here, hi.
You're still here, hi.
If you're still here, go down below and comment cow. Just so I know I have fans.
Just so I know I have fans.
Yeah, please enlighten me with what you're about to play.
I can't. Oh, here it is. Come on. Oh, I can't play it.
Well, that was just take a shot just because he messed up.
Yeah, I messed
and then
up.
comment cow.
And then comment cow. I think he's going to the Chiefs.
Well,
replacing Tyrann Mathieu.
He's not a safety.
Wagner is a safety.
No, he's not. He's a linebacker.
He's a safety.
He's a linebacker, you dingus.
He's a fucking listed as a safety, okay?
No, he's not. He's a linebacker. He's always been a linebacker. He's been one of the best linebackers in the game.
Okay, so he was one of those.
No, he's been a linebacker. It's not. No, you're thinking. Who are you thinking of? I forget. But he retired. He retired a few years ago. Is.
Okay, hold up.
I think he's going to go to the Buffalo Bills, which is even worse. They just released A.J. Klein today, and they had arguably the best defense in the league, and this would most certainly make their defense any better. I think Bobby Wagner going to the Bills would be a huge addition, get them closer to a Super Bowl again. Yeah, idiot, put your phone down. I think they're close to a Super Bowl, and
comment idiot.
You're just gonna have him comment everything. Bobby Wagner to the Bills makes a lot of sense for me. Vaughn Miller, again, another one I think we're both in agreement on. I think he returns to the Broncos, which would be very interesting.
I think he does as well. I mean, he hinted at it before the whole Russell Wilson situation, and as soon as Russell Wilson, everybody in our chat, and by everybody I mean 3 people, all said that Vaughn Miller is for sure going back to the Broncos now. I mean, it's been his home there since he was drafted. He left what?
For like 2 minutes?
For like 2 minutes. His family
went on vacation in LA.
His family's there. Went on vacation in LA and came back with the Super Bowl. Like,
I think everybody included, if this happens, like if you're the Rams, you're like, oh, we just traded for you. So what? They got a ring. And I don't think with their cap situation, they currently have the 3rd worst cap space in the league. They can't re-sign everybody. They're trying to re-sign Odell. Vaughn Miller could go back to the Broncos and be
Cooper
just
Kupp
as
is
good
about to get paid, so...
Yeah, and you still have Robert Woods, who's under contract. You have Matt Stafford under contract. You have a whole bunch of contracts there. You have to deal with Aaron Donald. You have Jalen Ramsey. So you can't keep everybody. So Vaughn Miller going back to the Broncos makes a lot of sense.
The main reason that they traded for Vaughn Miller is because their linebacker, they run a 3-4, so their linebacker / defensive end, he was hurt, and so he wasn't able to play.
And the presence he provides.
And yes,
the
veteran presence that he provides, and so as their GM would put it, F them picks.
Yeah.
Kept the PG.
So does he. That's what it says on his mug.
It actually has it spelled out. They blur out the other ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, Vaughn Miller to the back to the Broncos makes a lot of sense. And last one we're going to talk about, Chandler Jones. What do you got?
This one, you're going to love this one, guys. Broncos.
Really? Oh, okay.
I think
I like it.
With the loss of Shelby Harris, they need to replace it, and they do have cap space. I think they go and get Chandler Jones, put him on the line, replace Shelby Harris, and pick up right where they left off.
I think Chandler Jones is going to get paid, and I think he's going to get paid by the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think it's not sexy. It doesn't look good to the media. Like he's going to the worst team in the league, but they got money. They need everything outside of quarterback and running back. They need every other position on the team, and they need guys. And they can afford to overpay, so I think they're going to go and overpay for Chandler Jones. But the Broncos make sense too.
Briefly on that though, I think Chandler Jones mentioned that he kind of wants to get a ring though, because
but money talks.
he never got a ring with the Patriots.
Yeah, no, they shipped him out right before, I think.
Yeah, so he does want money, which is why they traded him to Arizona, because he got paid in Arizona. However, I think he wants to get that ring. He's the only one in his family that doesn't have a ring. Because his brother Chris Jones has a ring with the Chiefs. His other brother John Jones, multi-champion in the UFC.
Doesn't have a ring, but he's a belt.
A belt. He has a championship.
Yeah. Or if he goes for that, I could see him going and partnering up with Joey Bosa over on the Chargers.
I could see that as well. However, you're talking about putting him in one of the, Broncos are in the same boat.
Yeah.
Scratch that thought.
Yeah.
Okay, but Broncos are in a better position with Russell Wilson and their offense and defense, because plugging him in for Shelby Harris is, that might be an upgrade a little bit.
Yeah. It definitely is. It definitely is. But that's our free agents. A very long talk about free agents. With quarterback, got Tua, all the way down to Chandler Jones in Jacksonville. Leave your comments down below. We discussed, I think, 8 or 9 teams that could possibly be moving off their quarterback. What do you think? Do you think any of these guys will be going anywhere else? Do you think there's more star quarterbacks could be on the move? What do you think is going to be in the draft? Comment down below if you're listening on YouTube. Thank you again to all those also listening on Spotify. But now we can talk about the team on our chest, the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins.
And if you're here and you did the drinking game,
stop, because you might be dead. Depending on what you're drinking. Now, if you're drinking like a Truly or something, you're all right. But anything stronger,
good.
Woo!
Hey, let us know how drunk you are in the comments below.
But don't be driving.
Don't drive.
I just want to not get sued. So the Miami Dolphins, after tagging Mike Gesicki, their cap space has now gone to $51 million, which is still having that second best in the league. Again, I don't understand how the Chargers, maybe this isn't updated for the Chargers, but it's for the Dolphins, because they re-signed Mike Williams, but they got better even though they're paying him $20 million a year. And
the first year is $28 million also.
So this just has to be incorrect for the Chargers.
Yeah, that has to be incorrect because Mike Williams, his contract is, I believe, it is 3 years, $60 million, which is an average of $20 million a year. However, it is front-loaded because they have cap space this year. He's making $28 million this year. I believe $35 million is guaranteed.
So that's a big check that he's going to be getting.
Yes.
So he's going to be. So yeah. I wasn't a big fan of him. I know you weren't a big fan of him for a multitude of reasons. But now the Dolphins, if what we believe is correct, still have the top cap space in the league, and the Dolphins have a lot of needs. Some of that's going to be addressed in the draft. Some of that's going to be addressed in free agency. But first and foremost, the guy we just talked about, Teron Armstead, I think is the #1 target for the Miami Dolphins going to free agency. Offensive line, obviously, is a huge issue for the Miami Dolphins. Offensive line is what costed Tua 3 games last year, 3 or 4 games last year, and it really, really hampered the team as a whole, the offense as a whole. You don't have the best offensive system in the first place, and then the offensive line can't protect anything. We saw even some of Tua's good throws, like the throw against the Jets. He had to maneuver his way through the pocket just because it was collapsing on him. His throw down the field to Gesicki, 4th down against the Bills. They weren't clean pockets, and I love seeing videos of just 20-second clips of Tua in a clean pocket, and then he usually makes a decent throw. But Teron Armstead definitely has to be the first target.
100% has to be the first target. If he's not signed, the millisecond free agency opens, I'm going to be very concerned. I was kind of concerned how late they tagged Gesicki, to be quite honest. I think another target that has to be addressed has to be Emmanuel Ogbah. He has to be re-signed. 100% he has to be re-signed. I don't understand how he's not re-signed already. I understand he wants a boatload of money. Once again, we have the highest cap right now. I think if we can put a lot of guarantee in there, backload it, and maybe add a lot as a bonus as well.
What do you think is an appropriate? What do you think is an appropriate per year number?
For him, I would say an appropriate number is probably 14.5 to 15 mil.
Yeah,
I
obviously
think he's asking 17.
I would hope to get closer to that 14, but 17 million. He's been the best defensive lineman for the Dolphins on a pretty good defensive line. Christian Wilkins had his best year as a pro last year. Raekwon Davis has been emerging. Jalen Phillips had an amazing second half of the season. So you have the 2 rushers on opposite side of Phillips and Ogbah. If Ogbah does walk, you could see the Dolphins potentially go out to try to get a Chandler Jones. However, Ogbah's already been there. He's already been part of the team, and he's been succeeding. So I would love to bring back Ogbah. He's led the team in sacks these last 2 seasons. So getting both sides of the line need to get taken care of. And again, back on the offensive side of things as well, I say get Armstead and look to bring in somebody else. There could be Trent Brown. You could look to go 1 or 2 other ways. But I think a really nice name that's out there that I would love to see. He has experience. He has the Pro Bowls. is the
Tampa Bay.
Yes, the center out of Tampa Bay, Ryan Jensen. He just was a Pro Bowler this year. Good catch. He was a Pro Bowler this year. The middle of the offensive line has been terrible. Last year who was our centers last year?
So our center
Mance,
for
I think.
Greg Mance was our third string actually.
Wow, that's bad.
So Dieter was our starter, and he got way better as the season went on, I will say. However, if you can go out and get a Pro Bowler, go out and get a Pro Bowler. I love you, Dieter, but
I don't.
You don't like Dieter?
Only guy I like is Robert Hunt on the offensive line.
I like Dieter and Robert Hunt. I don't think center should be a priority. I think it should be mostly left tackle and right tackle. Although when Robert Jones came in Week 17 to play against the Patriots, he did a fantastic job on that right side.
Hopefully your brother can step things up. Liam
Eichenberg, my brother.
Hey, he's accepted it. Let's go.
Fuck you. Sorry. Anyways, with Armstead coming to Miami, he's coming to Miami. With him coming to Miami, we can move Liam Eichenberg back to left guard. He can stay at left guard rather than being right tackle, left guard, left tackle.
Did not work well.
He accepted the roles with integrity. Now he said before he became left tackle that Austin Jackson was a better left tackle. He was just being a good teammate. Austin Jackson was horrible. I don't understand how he went from a decent rookie with a lot of potential to just flat out garbage. Now, Jesse Davis went from a decent left guard last year to and he was a backup left guard given because he was behind Flowers. But when Flowers missed games, he filled in the role nicely. He played right tackle for most of this season.
Awful.
He cost us the playoffs.
He cost 2 or 3 games.
He cost us. I'm straight out saying it to this camera right now. Jesse Davis, you cost us the playoffs.
That's fair. The offensive line as a whole did. The amount of pressures, the sacks was ridiculous. And Jesse Davis, I think it's fair to say, was the worst member of the offensive line last year.
And that's saying a lot.
Austin Jackson was really bad. Center was really bad. Really,
Austin Jackson got a lot better when he was moved to guard. However,
still not good.
He still wasn't good. It was kind of like so. Eichenberg, my brother, was a better left tackle, but he was a better left guard than he was a left tackle. However, the balance of it, him at left tackle being slightly worse than left guard, and moving Austin Jackson to left guard being slightly better than left tackle. It kind of it shifted the line around, yeah, but it made the line semi-better. It was just
the line was a mess. But let's talk. Let's go a little bit more.
Yeah,
Let's go a little bit more glamorous. We definitely need to improve at running back. We definitely need to improve at receiver, and both of which there's definitely a few options out there. You look in free agency with running back. There's top Raheem Mostert. There's Leonard Fournette. Even look at the draft. There's Breece Hall. There's Kenneth Walker. Do any of those names intrigue you?
James Cook.
James Cook, the brother of Dalvin Cook. Now,
I am very high on James Cook. I think he can fall to us easily at 29. I think he may be even there with our second round pick, to be quite honest.
He's not a first. No, I don't think he's a first round running back.
I think he is a mid-second round running back. I'm very, very high on him. I am perfectly content, however, with bringing back Duke Johnson, Phillip Lindsay, and Myles Gaskin. We did tender Savon Ahmed, who I am also very high on. I believe Savon Ahmed is actually a better running back than Myles Gaskin. However, his blocking inability.
He's very small.
He is very small. So is Phillip Lindsay, but Phillip Lindsay threw a block.
Yeah, there was a block season. Wasn't by an offensive lineman.
Dude, when he laid that, so Liam Eichenberg let some pass rusher go by for the Panthers, and Phillip Lindsay just laid him out.
And he looks bigger than he is. He's only like 5'9".
Dude, he's tiny.
But he walks big. It's
But
weird.
yeah, but he also has 0 fumbles in his career. He was a Pro Bowler his rookie season as a undrafted free agent coming out of college.
Yeah.
He made the Pro Bowl. He was a very good running back for the Broncos. I think they made a horrible decision when they moved off of him.
I think it's worked out.
It did work. It did work out. Javonte Williams is a monster.
Could have had him. Broncos leapfrogged us. I mean, they get Javon Holland, who I think we're content with. We're very not content. Very happy. Sorry, very happy with. Very happy with.
Top 5 safety in the league. I'll take it. Yes.
Yeah, me too. I would like to keep Duke. I'd like to keep Gaskin. Offman is staying. Lindsay, if we did keep him, you're not going to hear me complain. But Raheem Mostert really intrigues me. He had a lot of success.
Mostert also is injury prone.
He is, but he's not your only back that you have there. If he goes down, then you're going Duke, Gaskin, and Ahmed, which, again, isn't a bad trio if you improve on the offensive line. Mostert, with Mike McDaniel as his running backs coach 2 years ago, had an incredible season. This year, injuries, and we've seen him injured.
He was injured at the beginning of the season, and we saw Elijah Mitchell kind of pick up from that. Although, the injury history on the San Francisco running backs has got to be just as bad, if not worse, as the Ravens.
Which is, but it's really impressive how, a lot of credit to Mike McDaniels. They've been able to, Mike McDaniel, not McDaniels, has been able to, whoever it is, make it work. However, we have seen the success with Raheem Mostert. I think you're signing him to a very similar number if you re-sign Philip Lindsay. I really want us to keep Duke. I really want us to keep Gaskin. And if it is Lindsay, again, not too upset. And then also Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette had a very good time with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. His first year through most of the season was kind of hit or miss. After leaving the Jaguars, he goes for the ring. He got it, and I think if you bring him in, he can be somewhat of a workhorse, but he won't have to be because you also still have Duke. You also still have Gaskin.
Now, will he be okay taking that back seat?
But he's not taking a back seat. I think he is going to be a starter.
Oh, okay, so
starting back.
You know what I mean. So there are certain running backs that want the 20, 25 carries a game, that they don't want to be pampered and say, okay, you're good with your 10 carries this game, and we're going to go ahead and give 10 carries to Duke and 5 carries to Miles.
But he split time with Rojo, and it worked. So I don't think
he didn't really. He kind of took
first
that.
Year he did.
First year he did, and he kind of acted like a little bit of a diva, and then Bruce Arians straightened that out.
I don't think.
I think
he earned it.
I think
Jones has a fumbling problem.
But remember, he got internally suspended by Bruce Arians. That's why he got.
Did he? I forget this.
It wasn't really a suspension per se, but he was made inactive for 3 straight weeks because he was being a diva about his playing time.
Okay, well that definitely could be a concern. However, just his ability as a running back, there's also James Conner, who's a free agent. I think he gets re-signed by the Arizona Cardinals. However,
I think so as well.
Touchdown machine, 6'2", really good on the goal line, obviously in short yardage situations, and does offer something different than your Duke Johnson, your Gaskin, your Ahmed, who are definitely quicker, have a little bit more finesse to him, whereas he definitely runs with a lot more power, and I would really enjoy bringing him in, or any of those 3 guys, and if we do keep Lindsay, that's fine. So that is a situation that we do have options with. And
I'm going to go ahead and throw another name out there real quick before we finish up the running backs. Bringing back Damian Williams.
Damian Williams.
So he took a year off after he got shafted from being Super Bowl MVP. With the Chiefs. He won a ring with the Chiefs. He took a year off for COVID. He came back. He was released by the Chiefs because obviously they drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and he did a decent job for him in the 1 year that he was there. So they let him go. He signed with the Bears, and he did really well with the Bears as a backup running back there. And I believe he's a free agent this year.
He is.
So I was sad to see him go to the Chiefs, to be quite honest. He was a catching machine out of the backfield, and he proved in Kansas City that he could be a
stretch.
Dude, he ran routes like a wide receiver when he was with us.
Again,
I think he's a threat out of the backfield catching wise. I think he complements, if you can run a dual back set with him and Duke Johnson, and have Waddle still on the outside, like, who's gonna stop that?
I understand what you're saying.
Like,
I'm
so-
a big fan of that, though. I would like to just
Okay.
we have a little JPA post. The Washington Commanders have taken a long look at Jameis Winston. It's gonna happen. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on to the Dolphins receiving core. There was some improvement this year. Bringing Jalen Waddle was most certainly the right pick there at number 6. Devontae Parker, you could look to move off of Devontae Parker. However, he's on a very team-friendly deal. If you cut him, you're really saving only the same amount of money if you get rid of Allen Hurns, which personally I would do. Allen Hurns,
Okay.
Albert Wilson, kick rocks. They're gone to me. So you're going to a wide receiver on the team that I believe are going to stay. You have Waddle, you have Parker, you have Lynn Bowden. Preston Williams, 50-50, whether he stays or goes. He's a free agent. You can bring him back on a cheap deal. He really
He
regressed.
is a restricted free agent, I believe.
Yeah, but he really underperformed is a stretch.
The anticipation was that he was probably going to be let to walk in free agency. I wouldn't mind bringing him back on the practice squad, possibly. His rookie season, before he got injured there, he showed a lot of promise. And then Tua's rookie year, they showed a real strong connection before he got injured in the Arizona game. I mean, he caught the winning touchdown in the Arizona game, for crying out loud. On that is where
he did.
Yeah, he did.
He scored 8 touchdowns. That was
the go ahead.
that was in the second quarter. The go ahead at the end was Holland.
Oh, that was to take the lead though.
Yeah, but that was at the
Okay,
end.
okay,
Remember they were like Gesicki, but it was actually Matt Hollins.
Yeah. That's another person I think we should bring back. Hollins. He's really improved at the receiver position, but he's not really a receiver for us. He's more of a special teams
who just got forced into running routes.
Yeah, and he's dramatically improved.
Yes, he has.
I mean, he's made some huge plays for us offensively, clutch moments. I mean, the Raiders game where Fitz had his helmet ripped off his head, he made that pretty much a go-ahead catch on the sideline. He had one again this year
against the Jets.
To
his deepest throw, I think it was.
No, that was...
I think it was farther than the Ravens one. Or, maybe the Titans one. Maybe the Titans Waddle one was farther.
No, you're right. It was the Jets one was the furthest. Oh, no, the Waddle one was the furthest one.
The one against the Titans?
No, it was the one where he...
cut out.
He cut out and then he caught it and then got tackled.
That happened both.
It's the same route.
Yeah, but those are the guys that I think we're going to keep. But there's some options that we could look to bring in. There is a Braxton Berrios if you want to go for a slot, cheaper receiver. However, if you want to go the more expensive option, there is a certain Amari Cooper that could hit free agency. He's probably going to demand $15 million a year. Again, we have money to spend.
I'm perfectly content with that.
Again, and me too. If you're rolling out a wide receiver core of Amari Cooper, Jalen Waddle, you decide then, okay, do we keep Devontae Parker? Do we move off him? Let's say you keep him.
I think the only reason to move off Devontae Parker is if we get
Amari Cooper?
Not even that, to trade for Amari Cooper, because he hasn't been released as of yet. However, he's anticipated to be released. If the Dolphins want to secure Cooper, though, and help with Dallas's cap situation, an enticing option would be trading them Parker. That would be one of the only reasons I move off of him. Either that or trading a mid to high second round pick, and I'm talking about mid being number 15 to 18 in the second round, or higher.
Yeah.
I mean, he is on a massively team-friendly deal. I think he's making less than $7 million a year, or around $7 million a year. I mean, that's stupid for a potential number one receiver.
But he does have the issue of injuries.
He does have the injury issue. However, that is also why he is being paid that low, and his contract is incentive-based. He has incentive-based for time played, for catches, for yards, for touchdowns. He has all those incentives. He loves it here in Miami. He wants to stay. I have a source that says that he actually really likes playing with Tua, and that he thinks Tua has the potential. Of course, he would have loved Watson and the big arm and everything else. However, he does believe in Tua.
Yeah, that's really good for him. It would make a lot of sense, a Amari for him swap possibly. And there's another wide receiver option out there in Allen Robinson, who I believe's kind of been forgotten about.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bears didn't tag him. The Bears are going to let him walk. Of course, he's not going to resign back with there. He's absolutely fed up with that situation. So the Dolphins go out and get a star receiver. That could really help Tua's development. You want to give him as many weapons as possible. Just adding Jalen Waddle was so huge for the development of Tua last season. It was most of his best throws were to Jalen Waddle. If you go out and bring in, whether it be an Allen Robinson or, I think more likely a Amari Cooper, that could really help him, or look to the draft. There's probably going to be 5 receivers taken in the first round. We're talking Drake London, Chris Olave, the other guy.
Jameson Williams.
Well, that's what I was going to get to last. That probably could still be there because of his injury. Dotson out of Penn State, the other Ohio State kid. There's somebody else from a smaller school that I forget his name. But there's options there. Around the pick you're looking at, you're not getting the best choices at offensive line. We saw what happened when we took Austin Jackson when all the other top offensive linemen were gone. There's no other really needs around there. There's a linebacker, Dean, out of Georgia. That could be a nice compliment to Jordan Baker as a middle linebacker. But there's not a lot of players that are available there that could fulfill a need. Now, you could go running back.
Yeah.
Now, James Cook, I think it's going to be more of a second or third rounder. I don't think
he's going to go third. I think he's going to go second because of the need at running back.
I think the top 3 are there's the top 3, and then there's a few, and I think he's in that few. But I'm talking a Breece Hall. I'm talking a Kenneth Walker. That could be. They're like fringe first rounders. Truly, they are second round talents. However, if you'd like to get them, you could overdraft a little bit or trade up. But I think a receiver there at 30 or is it 29 makes a lot of sense for Miami Dolphins. Even if you do bring in Amari Cooper, we're looking at the league now. The Rams, even with little money, are trying to add as many receivers as possible. Like we look when they drafted Van Jefferson, they didn't really need it. Bring Odell Beckham, they didn't really need it. They're gonna have both of those guys there next year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they use their 5th round pick on a wide receiver, just because they know how valuable the wide receiver position is. So we're talking Al Robinson, we're talking Braxton Berrios, we're talking, and then most importantly Amari Cooper. I think all those guys could really help out Tua in the Dolphins offense.
And Lynn Bowden is a undervalued part because at the end of Tua's rookie year, him and Bowden had a great connection when Preston Williams went down. So I think Bowden steps into that role pretty nicely as far as like a safety net when Waddle's not there. You have Gesicki and Parker to just throw it up to. So I think as far as receivers go, I would love to get another receiver to add on there. I wouldn't mind another tight end. I told you, I don't know his name, but I saw his highlights at the Combine. He looks like a Gesicki Jr. that can block. This kid can flat out run. He can catch. He is faster than Gesicki. He might have as good as hands as Gesicki. Can
he break a tackle? Because Lord knows Gesicki can't. I think he's literally had 0 broken tackles in his career.
He likes to jump over people.
And doesn't do it well.
He bags him.
Yeah, literally. He just gets it's just waist to face and doesn't really do much else other than that.
It looked good on highlight reel.
No, it didn't. It didn't accomplish anything. He got maybe an extra yard out of it, but if he just if he dropped his shoulder, got 2.
It's not
you're going as a secondary guy. Just hit him.
So yeah, he's not a run you over kind of guy. I don't know if I need to find out who it was. I did find out he was a tight end. But if he was invited to the Combine, I'm sure there's very few tight ends that are actually there. So I'll look into that some more. But I saw his highlight tape and I'm like, that's a very interesting pick. I'm hoping maybe a 2nd round pick, maybe 3rd.
So give it to me straight, Donovan, and I'll do this following you. We have $50-some million now. We could cut some guys. We also have to re-sign a few more guys. We have to re-sign Ogba. We got to re-sign Nick Needham. So give it to me straight. Who do you think the Dolphins are going to be adding to the roster?
Okay, adding to the roster, Teron Armstead. Does adding on mean re-signing as well?
No.
Okay, so
Well, fine, but go ahead.
okay, so absolutely getting Teron Armstead.
So that's probably about $20 million a year.
Yeah, so now we're down to around 30 mil. We're re-signing Nick Needham. You undervalued Nick Needham when we talked about him earlier.
$7 million, I know.
He's around a $7 million a year person. If we can,
Brings it to 23.
I think we can backload that contract. However, I don't think they will. Greer is known for not really backloading anything. He wants to leave cap for the future. I think he'll try to front load it, if anything else. So I think he